If a coworker is begging you to help them fulfill their work quota, but at the same time is telling you to straight up stay out of their way, I think a little malicious compliance is deserved. We'll get to that in a bit, but first, won't pay me my travel time? Okay, I'll comply. I was working for a large multinational, installing new hardware and software, and testing for a large client in San Francisco, California. San Francisco was a 6-hour plane ride from my nearest airport. I had to be in San Francisco for Monday morning, so I flew out Sunday morning, worked 2 weeks, and flew home Saturday. Spent a week at home and repeat cycle. This went on for 9 months with 3 of us doing on-site rotation with 2 people always on site. Airport limo from my house to airport was $80. First expense report, I claimed 6 hours overtime for the Sunday fly out and 6 hours overtime for Saturday to fly home, plus airport limo. Overtime denied. Why? I left for my home and not the office. Cue compliance. As a side note, I was closer to the airport than the office was. I lived 30 minutes from the airport. Office was 60 minutes from the airport. Come next Sunday, I took a taxi from my house to the office. Taxi from my house to the office was $80. Took an airport limo from the office to the airport. The airport limo was $140. Since I started my trip from the office, my overtime started from then. Time in the airport limo, time sitting in the airport, etc., until I got to the hotel at the other end, all accrued. Next expense report, I submitted taxi and airport limo expenses and billed 12 hours for travel time each way. All approved. Did this for 9 months. Approved every single time. I wonder if some accountant or whatever was getting a really hard time or worried about appearances, and that's why they'd be so okay with spending so much more. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you enjoy awesome stories of malicious compliance, why not hit that subscribe button down below? That said, our next story is, try to trick me into eating a radish under the guise that it's a carrot? Okay, I'll bite. Last night I came home and walked into the kitchen where my mother-in-law and wife are standing with an enormous bag of small carrot-shaped white root vegetables. Exhausted from a long day, I absent-mindedly ask, "Are those white carrots?" The existence of radishes temporarily eluding my consciousness. My mother-in-law and wife in enthusiastic unison chime in that, yes, they are indeed carrots. Go ahead and try one. My mother-in-law encourages, with an overzealousness that brings me to my senses. No, these are not carrots. Game on, mama, game on. I'll eat this raw root vegetable and get you two as well. I rinse one off and snack into it as my wife and mother-in-law attempt to stifle their giggles. I feign confusion at their reaction. What are y'all laughing about? My wife laughs. What's it taste like? A carrot, I say. Maybe a little less sweet. You're lying, my mother-in-law shoots back. The lady who gave them to me said they're radishes. My face betrays nothing. I have crunched the pungent, peppery taste and melded it into an earnest mask of enjoyment. The sporadic laughter from my wife and mother-in-law has ceased. I said, well, I don't know who said that, but this definitely tastes like a carrot. Maybe I just got the one carrot mixed in with the radishes. I grab another, rinse it, and go to Chomp Town. Mid-chew, I double down. No, these are definitely carrots. My mother-in-law, exasperated that I'm either a master of deception or that she in fact did get the wrong bag of veggies, rinses one off, takes a massive bite, and immediately spits it back out. It's now I who am laughing, but not a tepid giggle, an uproarious guffaw of triumph. I have won. Now to get the taste of radish out of my mouth. OP might have won, but at what cost? They still went raw on a radish. Our next story is UK cable charges removed. Like many people in the UK, we had home cable TV and internet through a company I'll call VM. They're pretty good, decent speed, good consistency, channel coverage, in our area at least. Despite having to go through the dance of negotiating pricing every now and again, having done the dance and being about a year into a 2-year deal, we decided to move house. And I found that the new house couldn't get VM coverage. Not anything down to VM, just that the place was a little more rural and they didn't have the cabling infrastructure there. No problem. I'd asked them about this when I signed up for our deal, and they said I might be subject to an early cancellation fee. I called them up a few weeks before the move, and VM told me as they couldn't provide service, I'd have to pay a £275 cancellation fee. I was a bit annoyed about this, but when VM said they'd check whether they were likely to connect to service soon, I know they weren't going to, I let it ride whilst I worked out my next move. 3 days before we moved house, VM called and said our buyers were trying to get connected, but they couldn't until we closed over service. I explained I was leaving it open in case they could connect us in our new place. VM said this would prevent our buyers from setting up their service, and they asked me to cancel to allow the buyers to get set up. I saw my opportunity and maliciously complied with their request. Having said yes, and before I could say anything else, the VM agent disconnected the call. Fast forward 6 weeks, and we got a bill for a £275 cancellation fee. I called VM and explained I wasn't accepting the cancellation charge as they had asked us to cancel. They disagreed. Here's the bit where I have a couple of recommendations. The first is to read the terms and conditions. They aren't interesting, they are complicated, but they're worth reading in case you can find anything you can use. Secondly, if you're in the UK, invoke GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations. Companies hate it when you make a data subject access request, DSAR, as they have to gather lots of information. You just have to say, I'd like to make a DSAR under GDPR for you to provide any information relating to my account. When I phoned the VM complaint line and they said the charge stood, I raised a DSAR. A day later, I had a call from someone asking what it would take to resolve the complaint and withdraw the DSAR. In my case, I told them the early cancellation charge couldn't apply as they had asked me to cancel. They agreed, and I saved myself £275. It sure is nice when laws are passed that genuinely protect the people under those laws. This next story is Lawn Karen Update. A customer complained about me not removing all the leaves from her property, specifically the ones that were embedded in her pine straw. I went back and removed every leaf, along with the majority of her pine straw. She unsurprisingly called to complain about the missing pine straw, at which point I told her that I would be willing to replace it for $400. So a week after the events in my initial post happened, I got a call from Karen. She asked if I was still willing to do the pine straw job for $400. I told her I'd have no problem with it, but asked why she would want to use my services again when she wasn't satisfied with my prior work. Apparently, this lady discontinued services from 3 other landscape companies in the area and was having trouble finding anyone to do the job. I'm guessing that means they all fired her as a customer for being freaking ridiculous. I went and did the job this morning, and upon finishing, she was at least content enough with the work that she requested bi-weekly landscape maintenance moving forward. I politely declined, and when she asked why, I told her the truth. Ma'am, you seem a bit unreasonable, and I don't have the desire to deal with it. It didn't go over too well, but she paid for the work today and I left. Anyone wondering why I'd go back for the one job in the first place? It was an easy $200 profit for an hour of labor. Why not? Money talks, man. If anything, considering how much she paid you for this one job, maybe you should have tried to offer enough to make it worth your while, even if they turn it down. This next story is, charge me more for holding the relish? Okay then. As we all know, it's the holiday season, and if you're a Floridian, you know that means the arrival of the most controversial public sub. The delicious turkey bacon Gruyere cheese sub with, in my opinion, a disgusting cranberry orange relish. Upon my arrival to the deli this fateful day, this sub was on sale. Rather than be deterred to the prepackaged sandwich section, I chose the bold move of asking for the aforementioned sub, sans the relish. Behold my surprise when I was told that under direct orders from management, that the sub must be sold with the relish, or else it would cost more, as it was no longer classified as the sub of the week. I tried to reason with her that I was saving the store money via my decision, but she held firm. Cue malicious compliance. With a gleam in my eye, I said, "Oh, that's no problem. Can I get the relish on the side then?" "Why, of course. This is Publix, where shopping is a pleasure." The deli worker makes my sandwich, puts the relish in a little plastic cup, and hands it on over. I grab them both, turn around, throw the relish away in the nearby trash can, and proceeded to pay for my on-sale sandwich. It seems so obvious, but in the moment, I don't know if I would be able to think of that. This next story is, oh, you want individual emails? You got it. Short little story from my new job I've had for a month. I recently moved to a new state and got a new job managing an office in a medical field. Every morning, one of my responsibilities is emailing a list of patients by the type of appointment they had and the details of their appointment, called an encounter, to records from the day prior. I separate documents by type of appointment and attach the files to a single email with the date. Having worked in records before, sorting by date and having subcategories for type was easiest for me, and this is the way the new place trained me to do it. After about 2 weeks of doing it the way I was told / the way I thought was easiest, I got a very abrupt passive-aggressive email in response. Send encounters each in individual emails. Thanks, angry records person. I try to reach out for clarification. Do they want an entire list of one appointment type in an individual email? How the heck do you want it done? Just tell me. There was no answer for my question, so I just continued to send it how I was taught. Another week goes by and I get another passive-aggressive email. Per my last email, send encounters each in individual emails. No please, no thank you, or response to my questions at all. So, I maliciously complied. It took about 2 extra hours of my time, but I did as she asked and painstakingly sent each encounter in a separate email. One single encounter per email. That equaled about 60 emails back to back to back, instead of one nicely laid out email sorted by type. 2 days of this, and I quickly got, please stop, you're cluttering my email. You may send me one email with the encounter types attached. Thanks, angry records person. Yeah, I thought so. I continue to send the emails how I was trained, and I haven't had a problem since. The most frustrating thing here is they were still a snarky jerk even after the fact. You almost want to just call them out on it, but you would probably get in more trouble than they would. Our next story is, stop communicating? Fine. I've been working as an underwriter for several years. I evaluate loans that are submitted through the queue. I also forward some loan applications, apps, to senior underwriters should applicants apply for a higher amount. Part of our expectations as underwriters is to decide on at least 3 apps each hour. If we don't meet this request, then we're put on warnings and are subject to being fired. I work alone with another underwriter on Sundays. He let me know that he was very low on his decisions per hour, and in the spirit of cooperation, and because my numbers are always well above that due to experience, I asked him how many apps he'd like to work out of the main queue, and it's first come first served for apps. At first, he was appreciative of the help and would let me know how much he was going to do, and I'd be sure to leave the apps for them. A month ago, he IM'd me and told me to stop asking him how many apps he was going to do that day, as he was feeling micromanaged. I let him know that I was just trying to help him meet his numbers and that I was only asking to make sure I didn't get in the way. He told me to stop communicating with him and to just work the queue. I made sure to document the conversation, should there be any backlash for the upcoming malicious compliance. From that day on, I just used my experience to my advantage and claimed as many apps as I could. On a normal Sunday, there's around 150 apps. Under our arrangement before, I did half of them and left the other 75-ish for him. The queues and how intense the applications are can vary, which is why I'd always communicate with him. After that, I did as many apps as I felt I could while still being accurate, as that's another thing we're judged on. For the last 3 Sundays, the amount of apps the other underwriter did has gone down to around 20 apps each Sunday, due to how fast and accurately I was able to get through the rest of the queue. I also stopped answering his questions in the chats and said that I was too busy working to answer his questions. He's now on a verbal warning, and he's too prideful to tell me he was wrong or apologize. So I'm keeping course. I was able to change shifts and no longer work Sundays due to how good my numbers look, so I'll no longer have to work with him alone on Sunday. I still refuse to answer his questions the other days of the week we work. I've not been approached by my management for my malicious compliance, and have only been praised on my work thus far. Let me get this straight, this guy was asking for assistance from OP, but also just being a general jerk to them? Saying, hey, throw me a bone, but also shut up? To heck with you then. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another awesome malicious compliance story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.